Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The youths of Trinidad and Tobago are lending their voice to the international movement against the effects of climate change. European funding is being sought to aid in the coconut industry's recovery. And the Prime Minister strengthens CARICOM ties during the long journey to South Africa. Thank you for joining us. The Prime Minister and a CARICOM delegation are in South Africa. Mrs. Persad Bissessar left Trinidad and Tobago to represent this country and the CARICOM in paying respects to former South African President Nelson Mandela. The Honourable Prime Minister extended invitations to fellow CARICOM members to attend the memorial service, which were accepted.
Prime Minister, the Honourable Kamla Bissessar, is currently in South Africa, where she, along with a local and CARICOM delegation, attends the state memorial for former South African President Nelson Mandela. However, it was a long journey from Piako International Airport to Johannesburg, one that the Honourable Prime Minister used to strengthen ties with her CARICOM colleagues. She engaged in dialogue with President of Haiti, His Excellency Michel Martelly, and Barbados Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Senator the Honourable Maxine McLean. Mrs. Bissessar and Prime Minister of the Bahamas, the Right Honourable Perry Christie, held a joint news conference with members of the media at about 35,000 feet in the air on board the Caribbean Airlines craft. Mrs. Bissessar was also seen greeting opposition leader Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley, as well as chairman of the Emancipation Support Committee, Kafra Kamban. The flight, which left Trinidad on Monday, arrived in Johannesburg, South Africa, 13 hours later on Tuesday morning. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Meanwhile, this country must give thanks for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that is, because of this international declaration, basic human rights are enshrined and will always be defended by the Trinidad and Tobago Constitution. Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Bissessar made the statement in recognition of International Human Rights Day 2013.
As the world recognizes International Human Rights Day, Prime Minister Kamla Bissessar says because of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, these rights are enshrined in the Trinidad and Tobago Constitution and continue to be upheld and defended. On December 10, 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, as a response to the horrors and atrocities of World War II. It was the first time that human rights and fundamental freedoms were established in such detail. This declaration remains today a most powerful instrument which continues to exert an enormous effect on people's lives all over the world. The declaration recognizes that the inherent dignity of all members of the human family is a foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. In her message, Prime Minister Bissessar says this statement is linked to the recognition of fundamental rights to which every human being aspires: the right to life, liberty and security, an adequate standard of living, the right to seek and enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution, the right to own property, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to education, freedom of thought and conscience and religion, and the right to freedom from torture and degrading treatment. She underscored that because of this important declaration, individuals and policymakers around the globe have been inspired to work toward a better world and is often referred to as the Magna Carta for all humanity. However, the day itself offers an opportunity for many, according to the Prime Minister, as a moment set aside to promote public awareness of the meaning of the Universal Declaration and its relevance to our daily lives. She notes that through the involvement and collaboration of civil society, government, non-governmental organizations and individuals comes the advancement and promotion of human rights around the world and its possibility of being fully realized. Nonetheless, the Prime Minister says the UDHR continues to be an inspiration to us all, whether in addressing injustices, in times of conflict, to societies suffering repression, and in our efforts towards achieving universal enjoyment of human rights. She notes that whatever our nationality, place of residence, gender, ethnic origin, color, religion, language, or any other status, the Declaration applies to every one of us, born free and equal in dignity and rights. In addition, Prime Minister Persad Bissessar underscored the application of this to the domestic legal system, as it provides a principal legal protection of human rights guaranteed under international law. Where domestic legal proceedings fail to address human rights abuses, mechanisms and procedures for individual and group complaints are available at the regional and international levels to help ensure that international human rights standards are indeed respected, implemented and enforced at the local level. She also highlighted the many challenges faced globally in maintaining peace, noting that unless human rights are respected, the maintenance of international peace and security and the promotion of economic and social development cannot be achieved. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister assured her government's part in working steadfastly in alleviating all forms of poverty and to ensuring that all citizens have access to proper medical attention, education and decent employment, as the future of human rights lies in our hands. She urged citizens to act when human rights are violated and to do their part in making this world a better and safer place to live, where the dignity of the human being is recognized, cherished and defended. This year marks the 65th anniversary since the declaration was made and 20 years since it was established in 1993 as part of the Vienna Declaration and Programme of Action. The United Nations General Assembly created the mandate of the High Commissioner for the Promotion and Protection of All Human Rights in December 1993. The General Assembly was acting on a recommendation from delegates to the World Conference on Human Rights held in Vienna earlier the same year. The Vienna Conference marked the beginning of a renewed effort in the protection and promotion of human rights and is regarded as one of the most significant human rights documents of the past quarter century. Kimberly News 4.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. More news after the break. Stay with us. The youth of Trinidad and Tobago, they are lending their voice to the international movement against the effects of climate change. Now, according to the World Bank, a rise in sea level could have catastrophic effects for the Caribbean and would affect the poorest and most vulnerable in the region.
An increasing number of youths are demanding that their voice be heard on a variety of issues that impact them today and would certainly have a significant impact on their lives tomorrow. One of the areas that is of particular interest is the conservation and preservation of the natural environment, a plight which is being championed by the Trinidad and Tobago Youth for Climate Change. The third annual Trinidad and Tobago Youth on Climate Change was held on Saturday at Capital Plaza, Port of Spain. The theme of this year's forum was Impact of Climate Change on Livelihoods, Water and Food Security, which focuses on agriculture and water resources, two sectors which are already adversely affected by changes in climate.
Climate change touches on every facet of human life. The science tells us that the atmosphere is getting warmer, and a major contributor to that is human activity. Food supplies are threatened with serious negative impact, particularly for the poor in the lesser developed countries. Our water resources are being depleted at unprecedented rates, and it is these two concerns that bring us here together today.
Over the past 2 years, the forum has provided a voice for more than 500 youth delegates between the ages of 14 and 25 from among a number of secondary schools, tertiary institutions, NGOs, and other relevant agencies. The objectives of the forum aim to engage and empower youth to develop and pursue innovative ideas aimed at addressing the issues of climate change and its potential impact on society through awareness, leadership, and action.
I urge you to take a stance today. Educate and enroll your peers. Lead the discourse. Demand policy change. Demand action on the part of your government and agencies. Engage in projects that promote solutions to climate change and environmental desecration. Today's forum provides you with a platform, the access and the network to get started.
Director of Corporate Responsibility at the Royal Bank of Canada, Lynn Patterson, delivered the feature address on RBC's Global Blue Water Project. The project is a 10-year global commitment of $50 million Canadian to provide access to drinkable, swimmable, fishable water now and for future generations. The youth delegates engaged in the exchange of ideas on the responsible management of water resources, climate change, food sustainability and policy, and modifying behaviors through policy change. It is the hope of the delegates that when the next forum rolls around, there would be a number of achievements to discuss as they continue to mitigate the effects of climate change. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
The Ministry of Food Production is not giving up on the revitalization of the coconut industry, so much so that even European funding is being sought to aid in the industry's recovery.
This assurance comes as the St. Patrick's Coconut Growers Cooperative Society hosts its annual general meeting. Speaking at the meeting, Asim Dilbar, member of the Ministry of Food Production's Coconut Industry Transformation Committee, assures that the revitalization of the coconut industry is in the Ministry of Food Production's plans. However, he says, before anything is done, something must be done to tackle red ring disease, which impacts greatly on the local coconut industry. The disease is caused by a parasite which targets coconut palms 3 to 10 years old and causes the tree to die within 2 months. It can affect up to 80% of coconut plants in a coconut plantation. Mr. Dilbar says a project has been started to eradicate the red ring disease.
The outcome of the project would provide a clear, pest-free environment. This initiative would be a first step to re-energize stakeholders' interests and confidence for the redevelopment of the industry. Additionally, training and reorientation of farmers and pest management prevention is essential to the long-term production and sustainability of plantations. So with this whole project getting off the ground, one can understand how important it is for this industry to go forward.
Mr. Dilbar explains the coconut industry plays a vital role in providing income and employment, particularly in rural areas. He explains this is why plans are afoot to take advantage of European funding, which should be made available within the next 2 years, to aid in research aimed towards the coconut industry revitalization. Meanwhile, Mr. Carol Adams, the Commissioner of Cooperatives, is urging the society to continue their good work as they are part of a powerful worldwide community.
Your cooperative is part of an international cooperative sector that totals 1 billion persons worldwide. And the United Nations estimates that the livelihood of 3 billion people, or nearly half the world's population, which is 7 billion today, is made secure by cooperative enterprise such as yours. And they have generated 100 million jobs and are significant economic factors in national economies.
Mr. Adams explains even right here in Trinidad and Tobago, the effect of cooperatives on the economy can be plainly seen.
Agricultural cooperatives, and over 200,000 consumer shops in 30 African countries. With respect to our own non-financial cooperative sector, which includes this cooperative, there are 55 non-financial cooperatives with an asset base in excess of TT 150 million, and credit unions with 9.5 billion operating in all sectors of the economy in the cases of manufacturing, services, and primary production. Also note that the small and micro-enterprise sector, in which cooperatives is considered a part of, is a solution for growth and sustainability through both smooth and challenging economic times.
The St. Patrick Coconut Growers Cooperative Society was established in 1987 and seeks to transform the coconut industry from traditional to modern operational methodologies. The society currently consists of 160 coconut farmers comprising some 7,500 acres. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
News 4 continues after this. The Caribbean Community, CARICOM, and the United Nations Population Fund, that's the UNFPA, on Monday met at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Port of Spain for a special regional consultation on adolescent pregnancy. The consultation was organized with support from the government of Trinidad and Tobago and included government, civil society, the private sector, the United Nations system, and other international development partners.
The consultation was to explore the opportunities and challenges in addressing adolescent pregnancy, which has been identified by the Caribbean Community CARICOM as a priority issue. Dr. The Honorable Fuad Khan, Minister of Health, before delivering key remarks from Prime Minister Kamla Bissessar, who could not attend the function as she was traveling overseas, related to the various regional and international bodies present that despite the high rate of teen pregnancy in the region, Trinidad and Tobago has had a decrease within 3 years.
Trinidad and Tobago is doing quite well because over the last 4 years, we have had an overall decrease in teenage pregnancy by 17.9%. I think that's reason to be proud.
Minister Khan said out of those discussions came the realization that education contributed to the decrease in teenage pregnancy in Trinidad and Tobago. Minister Khan then called for reproductive education in schools.
If we teach our young people about the social, the physical, and the economic drawbacks of teenage pregnancy, we tend to have a better response in decreasing adolescent pregnancy in a country. So I have now started in fact, I'd like to ask the UNFPA to assist me and those that are here. There is a dire need when you look at it. We speak about gender equality, etc., but let's now look at the need for reproductive education in schools. And I think a campaign should be done on that manner.
Speaking earlier, the Honorable Razia Ahmed, Minister in the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development, said Monday's session was key as leaders were taking a stance on an issue that has long been misconstrued. The minister called for meaningful, holistic change.
It is such a meaningful time to engage the leaders of our region for an opportunity to reach so many who often reside on the margins of society and who may often feel hopeless and helpless in the face of the large challenges of motherhood and indeed fatherhood.
Representing CARICOM Secretary General Erlin LaRocque was Dr. Douglas Slater, Assistant Secretary General, Human and Social Development, CARICOM. He told participants CARICOM was seeking to commission a strategic framework on adolescent pregnancy, looking to chart a course of action to educate, empower, support girls, and reduce the incidence of adolescent pregnancy. He said this was presented and discussed in May this year when CARICOM's Council for Human and Social Development, COSOD, met. Felicia Wilson-Moore, News 4.
When we come back, the Smartphone Film Festival. Stay with us. Trinidad and Tobago hosts its first Smartphone Film Festival with the aim of promoting local content. The latest initiative is that of the Trinidad and Tobago Film Company, which continues to provide a film platform for local filmmakers.
You do not have to possess the latest professional high-definition cameras or other video equipment to become a professional filmmaker. Gone are the days when hundreds of thousands of dollars must first be accumulated before you even think about creating a film. Thanks to the great technology that is put into some of the basic smartphones that are on the market, film students and even professional filmmakers can produce award-winning shorts and documentaries. On Thursday, the Trinidad and Tobago Film Company launched its Trinidad and Tobago Smartphone Film Festival. The competition challenges seasoned filmmakers to experiment with and explore alternative video technology as a means of creating local content. It is said that this maximization of the use of smartphone services will nurture the trend of the audience becoming filmmakers themselves.
We have a whole generation just waiting to make films. We're training young people. This is another thing. We have people who make their own films for their own purposes. But these could get on television, like Mohammed says. We want to get these so people can enjoy them and share them and see them, whether it's on the internet and the many different ways of distributing visual material nowadays. Television isn't the only thing. Cinema isn't the only thing, and especially for a younger generation.
Dominic Hu, a local filmmaker, showed off one of his smartphone films entitled Missed Call, which represented a responsible way of using your smartphones to make films. He said the process was an easy one, with his only challenge being that he did not himself own a smartphone.
Most young people nowadays know full well how to operate their phones and the technology involved, and with there's a number of apps out there that allow for filmmaking to be a lot easier and convenient for people to do. And the ease of making a film it's quite easy, really. You just need to know how to operate the technology. So in a sense, the focus more becomes on the content of the film, and I think we have a lot of content down here that we should be able to share and that we should be sharing, because we are a country that has its own identity and whatnot. To not display that, to not show that to the rest of the world would be a shame, really.
The criteria for entry into the competition is that films should be no longer than 5 minutes, shot solely using a smartphone or tablet device, and can be submitted by a group or an individual. The Trinidad and Tobago Smartphone Film Festival runs from December 2013 to March 2014 with a submission deadline of Friday, February 14, 2013. Further details can be accessed by contacting the Trinidad and Tobago Film Company. So the next time you think that a phone should be used to make and receive calls or text messages only, think again. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.